Hello everyone. January is just around the corner, and it is time in this video to take a look at the month ahead and to see the positive and the difficult days from the point of view of electional astrology. I also want to focus on the weather, astrological weather for the month. If you're new to my channel, my name is Elena Lumen, and this is a channel devoted to Hori, electional, and in general Western traditional astrology. And elections is an art of astrology that is focused on choosing the most optimal positive times for important activities. So in this monthly series, I focus on the lunar elections, which are basically the days when the moon is in good condition or difficult condition according to Western astrology. But in today's video, I want to focus on the lunar elections for the month of January. But I want to even start with today's date, which is December 30th, because today and yesterday the moon is trining the sun in Capricorn. In any election, the moon trine sun are always very favorable. So let's take a look at the month of January day by day. As usual, I will focus on most dramatic days, days to avoid and days to use for your practical purposes, but the full list will be in the info box. The month starts with the moon in Gemini, which is a good position in general for learning or social activities. However, on January 1st, the moon squares Saturn and Neptune, which suggests certain obstructions. It's not favorable for travel. It's not favorable for investment. In general, avoid squares with Saturn or Mars or oppositions because they create obstacles or obstructions. January 2nd and January 3rd, the moon is in Cancer, which is a strong position, and it is usually good for investments or for emotional connection. However, it will be in opposition with Venus, Sun, and Mars. In other words, January 3rd is the full moon, which is a good time for emotional or spiritual activities, but it's not favorable from a more earthy, mundane point of view. So avoid it for job interviews, publicities, or anything you want in your favor. January 4th, the moon moves to Leo. And I noticed when going through the month of January that there will be quite a few days when the moon is going to be void, meaning that she's not in aspect with any planet. And that's not a favorable position from the point of view of electional astrology, because the moon without a connection to another planet is like a messenger who cannot deliver its message. It's not favorable for anything you want in your favor, travel, surgeries, purchases. So it's better to wait for when the moon is in good aspect with another planet. And interesting, on January 4th and 5th, the moon continues to be void. So it suggests delays, lack of energy. Again, like messenger doesn't deliver its message. On January 6th and 7th, she will be in Virgo, however, and she will be trining planets in Capricorn, which is a really favorable time in general. Remember, the moon, sun trines, and sextiles are always favorable. And specifically when it is on Earth, it highlights anything related to earthy matters, financial securities, general securities, planning, detail-oriented, technical matters, because the moon in Virgo is good for sorting out through details. But it's also a favorable day for publicity or for job interviews. It is also good for travel. January 8th, she is in opposition with Saturn, so avoid this day for travel or for investment. It's never good when the moon is in opposition or square with Saturn. January 9th, she enters Libra, and at that point, she's going to square planets in Capricorn and square Jupiter. So it's a little tense energy, not entirely favorable, not horrible, because Jupiter supports the moon, but more tending to unbalanced. So I would avoid trading on that day. I would avoid starting travel. January 10th, she is in Libra, and she is out of orb of her square, but she's entering the void state. So avoid that day as well. January 11th and January 12th, she is in Scorpio. Normally, the moon doesn't feel good in Scorpio, but in this particular configuration in the sky, she will be trining Jupiter, a supportive aspect, and she will be sextiling planets in Capricorn, also supportive. So this day can be modestly successful, especially related to investments, related to some kind of practical decisions. If you want something really big, like purchase, job interview, I would wait for a better day. But if you have no choice, it's acceptable for certain activities and especially fertility. January 13th, she is at the end of the sign and entering Sagittarius. At that point, she's going to be void. Again, another situation, January 14th, January 14th, while she is in Sagittarius and in mutual reception with Jupiter, she's not applying by major aspect to any planet, which is a void position. It's not favorable because things will be delayed. There will be no flow. so avoid it for trades, travel, something important. January 15th, she is squaring Saturn, also not an easy day. Avoid it for something that's important. January 16th, she's in Capricorn, and she's starting to approach planets in Capricorn and Saturn, but she's still out of orb. But it could be a good day for some practical matters. January 17th, she's with Mercury in opposition with Jupiter. So some activities, some planning, some serious thinking can be done on that day. January 18th, she's going to be at the end of Capricorn. It's a new moon, so certainly avoid for anything that you want in your favor, but it's good for spiritual purposes. Meditation practices are always good. January 19th, the moon is entering Aquarius, which suggests new ideas, highlighting social connections. It's not a bad position, but again, the moon is not going to be making any major aspect. I don't count Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. In traditional view, they are not important. So she's not an aspect with any planet. So at best, it's good for something passive. January 24th, she continues to be void. In general, in the month of January, there are quite a few days where the moon is void. But January 21st, she's entering Pisces. At that point, she's trining Jupiter in Cancer, which is a favorable position, especially matters related to relationships, fertility, emotions, healing, and so on. So it's a positive day. January 22nd, she's with Saturn Neptune, a difficult day from the point of view of mundane activities, so avoid especially surgeries, travel, job interviews. However, it may be a good day for healing, soul searching, closing unfinished emotional business. January 23rd, she enters Aries and she's sextile planets in Aquarius, which is really positive. Again, moon, sun, positive connection, good for career, good for publicity, good for new beginnings. January 24th, she's squaring Jupiter but still sextiling planets in Aquarius, though separating. January 24th, she's squaring Jupiter, so modestly decent day, not bad, especially for activities related to new beginnings. Travel is okay. January 25th, she's entering Taurus, and January 26th, she's in Taurus. At that point, she's squaring planets in Aquarius, but she is supported by Jupiter. So some challenges, but some positives, a mediocre day. It can be okay for travel, but avoid 25th for travel because the moon squares Mars. And January 26th is okay. January 27th, she is in Gemini again. At this point, trining all of the planets in Aquarius. We'll have a stellium in Aquarius. A really favorable day for social activities, learning, exams, expanding your horizons, engaging in some new ideas. And it is a good day for social activities, for job interviews, for exams. So January 27, 28, a positive time for social connections, for learning, for job interviews. January 29th, she's about to enter Cancer, and January 30th, she's in Cancer. These are favorable positions for family matters, investments, positive emotional exchanges, maybe healing. If you had falling out, that might be a good time for healing the broken relationship. January 31st, she continues to be in Pisces, and she's trining Saturn, Neptune, which are about to shift signs. It's a positive day in general. These are the days for the month of January. Again, I will list the full list in the comments. Now, in the second part of this video, let's take a look at the more broader astrological weather, because the month of January is actually quite remarkable in terms of the planetary energies. First of all, the most remarkable, Neptune is going to move to Aries on January 26th. And Saturn will follow shortly after, and Saturn will follow in February. But this marks an important period where both planets travel together, and according to traditional view, they highlight each other, which creates a difficult configuration. It's both confusion and a demand to be realistic, usually related to our emotional states, but it could be also related to our faith, to our religion. But anyway, transition of Saturn, Neptune to Aries suggests a new beginning. And I think it's more politically important where it may affect the structures of power. But on a more individual level, it suggests we need to finish the unfinished business, especially emotionally healing, because a new chapter is about to start in 2026. Actually, in the month of January, quite a few planets will shift their signs, which suggests shifts in our experiences, in political sphere, in the world. And another important shift, though it occurs more frequently, it's Mercury moving from sign of Sagittarius, where it doesn't feel good, to the sign of Capricorn, where the focus is on practical matters. Again, as I was reiterating in my other videos, it's about setting practical goals, being serious, kind of cutting out things that don't really work for us, and in business and in relationships, basically evaluating what works and what doesn't. And for the entire month of January, Mercury will be in Capricorn, approaching the Sun. Approximately in the middle of January, it's gonna hit Mars and then the Sun. And then by January 20th, it's going to move to the next sign. So 15th to 20th of January is somewhat challenging time for Mercury, and it could influence the trades, the real estate market, investments. But more collectively, it suggests shifts from hopefulness and positivity to seriousness and planning, and then later on to Aquarius, which is more about new ideas, inventions, new frontiers of knowledge. On that note, we have another interesting phenomenon that Venus, the Sun, and Mars are together traveling in a sign of Capricorn, which only occurs every few years that they come together, the three of them. Feminine and masculine energy, diplomacy and war. But from an everyday point of view, them being in Capricorn highlight the Capricornian themes: practicality, frugality, setting new goals, setting practical goals, setting career goals, or maybe planning for the old age. But as the month goes through, Mercury is going to join them. But then Venus is going to move to Aquarius, then Mercury is going to move to Aquarius, Sun and Mars are going to move to Aquarius approximately at the end of January, around the 20th of January. So we have the stellium of planets moving from Capricorn to Aquarius, which suggests a shift in energy. While Capricorn is all about frugality, practicality, even calculated risk, about planning for the future, about being secure, the shift to Aquarius suggests expansion of our mind, some kind of new inventions, new ideas, new things that really influence the humankind. And in our everyday life, that converts me to learning new things. And it's also something related to the society. So we'll see some kind of interesting, remarkable things in the social sphere at the end of January, beginning of February, especially with Pluto being there as well. And one last piece here, Jupiter continues to retrograde in Cancer. Retrograde diminishes its beneficial power. However, Jupiter in Cancer is a beneficial energy. And therefore, it helps the world. It helps the markets. I think it's our saving grace, which saves us from more difficult events. So these are my thoughts about January energy. Let me know in the comments what you think. And if you're new to my channel, please hit like or subscribe. Your support is very much appreciated. Thank you very much. Very happy holidays and the new year, and I'll talk to you soon.